So when it became pretty pink and yellow daylight, Tom got up and went outside. And all the time the Mexican lapdog barked so that the houses shook and the tiles on the roof of the palace rattled like milk cans in a cart whose horse is frisky. "I'll go to the pillar," thought Tom, as he went through the town. The pillar, of course, was the top of the piece of rock that had stuck itself through Rotundia millions of years before and made it spin around the wrong way. It was quite in the middle of the island, and it stuck up ever so far, and when you were at the top of it, you could see a great deal farther than you could when you were not. As Tom went out from the town and across the downs, he thought what a pretty sight it was to see the rabbits in the bright dewy morning, frisking with their young ones by the mouths of their burrows. He did not go very near the rabbits, of course, because when a rabbit of that size is at play, it does not always look where it is going, and it would have been very sorry afterwards. And Tom was a kind boy, and he would not have liked to make a rabbit unhappy. Earwigs in our country often get out of the way when they think you're going to walk on them. They too have very kind hearts, and they would not like you to be sad afterwards. So Tom went on looking at the rabbits and watching the morning grow more and more red and golden, and the Mexican lapdog barked all the time, till the church bells tinkled and the chimney of the apple factory rocked. But when Tom got to the pillar, he saw that he would not need to climb to the top to find out what the dog was barking at. For there by the pillar was a very large purple dragon. His wings were like the old purple umbrellas that have been very much rained on, and his head was large and bald, like the top of a purple toadstool, and his tail, which was purple too, was very, very, very long and thin and tight, like the lash of a whip. It was licking one of its purple umbrella-y wings, and every now and then it moaned and leaned its head back against the pillar as though it felt faint. Tom saw at once what had happened. A flight of purple dragons must have flown across the island in the night, and this poor one must have knocked its wing against a pillar and broken it. Everyone is kind to everyone in Rotundia, and Tom was not afraid of the dragon, although he had never spoken to one before. He had often watched them flying across the sea, but he had never expected to get to know one personally. So now he said, "I'm afraid you don't feel well." The dragon shook its large purple head. He could not speak, but like all other animals, he could understand well enough when he liked to. "Can I get you anything?" asked Tom politely. The dragon opened his purple eyes with an inquiring smile. "A bun or two, perhaps?" said Tom coaxingly. "There's a beautiful bun tree quite close." The dragon opened a great purple mouth and licked its purple lips. Tom ran and shook the bun tree, and he came back with an armful of fresh currant buns, and as he came near, he picked a few of the Bath kind, which grows on low bushes. Because, of course, another consequence of the island having spun around the wrong way is that the things that we make, buns and cakes and shortbread, grow on trees and bushes. But in Rotundia, they have to make cauliflowers and cabbages and carrots and apples and onions, just like our cooks make puddings and turnovers. Tom gave all the buns to the dragon, saying, "Here, try to eat a little. You'll feel better." The dragon ate the buns, nodded rather ungraciously, and began to lick his wing again. So Tom left him and went back to the town with the news, and everyone was excited at a real live dragon being on the island, a thing that had never happened before, and they all turned out to look at it, instead of going to the prize giving, and the Lord Chief Schoolmaster went with the rest. Now, he had Tom's prize, the History of Rotundia, in his pocket, the one bound in leather with the royal arms on the cover, and it happened to fall out, and the dragon ate it. So Tom never did get his prize, but the dragon, when he ate it, didn't care for it much. So Tom thought perhaps it was best after all. Maybe he wouldn't have liked it either. It happened to be a Wednesday. So when the princess's friends were asked what they would like to do, all the little dukes and marquises and earls said, "Let's go see the dragon." But the little duchesses and countesses said they were afraid. Then the Princess Marianne spoke up quite royally and said, "Don't be silly. It's only in fairy tales and histories of England and things like that that people are unkind and want to hurt each other. In Rotundia, everyone is kind, and no one has anything to be afraid of, unless they're naughty, and then we know it's for our own good. So let's all go see the dragon. We might take him some acid drops." So they went, and all the little titled children took it in turns to feed the dragon some acid drops, and he seemed pleased and flattered, and he wagged as much of his tail as he could, for he had a very long tail indeed. But when it came the princess's turn to give him an acid drop, he smiled a very wide smile, and he wagged his tail to the very last inch of it, as much as to say, "Oh, you nice, kind, pretty little princess." But deep down in his wicked purple heart he was saying, "Oh, you nice, fat, pretty little princess, I should like to eat you instead of these silly acid drops." But of course nobody heard him except the princess's uncle, and he was a magician and accustomed to listening in at doors. It was part of his trade. Now you remember that I told you there was one wicked person in Rotundia, and I cannot conceal from you any longer that this complete bad was the princess's Uncle James. Magicians are always bad, as you know from fairy tales. Some uncles are bad, as you can see by stories like Babes in the Wood. And one James at least was bad, as you have learned from English history. And when anyone is a magician and is also an uncle and is named James, well, you need not expect anything nice from him. He is a threefold complete bad, and he will come to no good. Uncle James had long wanted to get rid of the princess and to have the kingdom to himself. He did not like many things. A nice kingdom was about the only thing he cared for. But he had never seen his way quite clearly, because everyone is so kind in Rotundia that wicked spells will not work. They run off the blameless islanders like water off a duck's back. Now, however, Uncle James thought there might be a chance for him, because he knew now there were two wicked people on the island who could stand by each other, himself and the dragon. He said nothing, but he exchanged a meaningful glance with the dragon, and everyone went home to tea, and no one had seen the meaningful glance except Tom. Tom went home, and he told the elephant all about it. The intelligent little creature listened carefully, and then climbed from Tom's knee to the table on which stood an ornamental calendar which the princess had given Tom as a Christmas present. With its tiny trunk, the elephant pointed out a date, the 15th of August, the princess's birthday, and looked anxiously at his master. "What is it, Fido, my good little elephant?" said Tom, and the wise animal repeated its former gesture. Then Tom understood. "Oh, something is to happen on her birthday? All right, I'll be on the lookout," he said.